Why, hello there, everybody. Welcome to the commentary for Dark Pit versus Roxas. Roxas versus Dark Pit, actually, as it's called, because I'm cool and I do the analysis and the thumbnail in the order of the title. Be cool if some other people did that. Sip, sip. I was hoping that would make more of a gurgle sound to be a little bit more sassy. But anyway, this episode is I'm happy with this. Really happy with how this came out. Especially like if I were to pick one episode out of like the traditional batch where it's like just full on like the traditional formula of the show, where it's not like a special like event like DNSP. I would say this one is probably the one that I'm the most happy with how it came out. And apologies if I cough a little bit during this. I did like just eat, and usually when I talk after I eat, it immediately like goes through my system. So I end up like kind of having to chug it down with some water or some drink. And I have some water over there that I might get, but I have some drink right here, so I don't feel the need to go get some water. And I'm also recording this right before I have to go into my job. So yeah. So this Roxas analysis was a bit of a thing that like I kind of always had an idea. Well, really, it stemmed from the idea for this analysis was like I wanted to portray his story how the games portray it, where like in Kingdom Hearts 2 it's the game where like he gets introduced and you know nothing about him, and you have to like slowly piece it together like, oh, that's like his deal. It's like a whole mystery thing. And I'm giving you more information than Kingdom Hearts 2 even gives you at the beginning, but I wanted it to be like a real mystery of like how the fuck does it, like I feel like people know like just based on like the concept of the matchup, like he ties to Sora in some way, but they might not know specifically how. And like talking about like nobody's be like, oh, he's probably nobody's Sora, and like, yeah, this dumb bits like this strewn throughout, and that's part of why I'm like, this is probably the strongest episode. I think humor wise, I don't think there's like a single miss in this episode. Like joke wise, I think that all of the jokes fit the kind of vibe I wanted to go for very well. Especially the one in Dark Pit's analysis, where like I know a lot of people were LOLing and LMAOing at. And that's why you shouldn't skip the analysis parts, because I put jokes in here and people find them funny. So, yeah, and just like, I had the idea when I was starting on this, and I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a corkboard. I'm going to hang it up on my wall and have it be, I do like full-on conspiracy theory, like, alright, so here's the entire story of Roxas, okay, here you go. And just like, kind of look like I'm slowly losing my mind. If you notice, my hair in the live-action segment is very, a lot messier than it normally is, because I usually like do my hair up a little bit. That was on purpose. I wanted to go like full, in terms of looks, I wanted to go like full Pepe Sylvia, and like, I'm not gonna smoke a cigarette. I'm not gonna be like full Charlie Day smoking a cig, but like, I'm gonna act completely insane and just be like, look like I'm going insane when talking about this fucking series. And part of that is like the humor mixed with the heart of like talking about his story and talking about where he ends up and how he ends up there is like, this makes Roxas' analysis like one of the, oh my god, it's happening again. Sorry. To me, that makes Roxas' analysis like one of the best that I've ever done on the show, quite honestly. I am the happiest. I have not been this happy with how an analysis turned out since, I'd say, Tenacious D's analysis, and that's saying something, because that had a lot of love poured into it. And just like going into the pit here, because I remember editing this, is like, yeah, I don't think it was a struggle to like find like a good place to go into it. I think it was more so a struggle to like come out of like this. Yeah, here it is. You can really see like my hair is completely fucking frazzled and dazzled. So like, and like getting the corkboard up in that wall was not fun. Uh, and like having the yarn there, the yarn with the thumbtacks and like unnecessarily complicated webbing. And I honestly could have like spaced out the characters a little bit more to make it more coherent. But I like having it to where it's just like all contained to like one specific space. And like there's like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 characters on that corkboard when we're talking about one person, and like all of them are integral to like what we're talking about. Like I could have added more if I wanted to. I could have been like, oh yeah, by the way, Xehanort and like Xemnas and Ansem. I could have had them there and like had Ansem tied to Riku and have Xehanort tied to Xemnas and Ansem, and also Ventus, and like I could have had the entire the entire Wayfinder trio there. But like it's at some point you got to be like, the joke works enough with the bare minimum, and there's already characters here that serve really no purpose being on the board. Like, and I wouldn't say no purpose, but like they serve one purpose, and like that's it. And that's like Ventus and Kyrie serve like one purpose being on this board, to explain like what's going on in Chain of Memories and like why Roxas doesn't look like Sora. Um, so yeah, this whole thing was just like lore dumping the very end, and like as a conspiracy theorist felt very like a fun idea to me. Because I always enjoy I enjoy lore dumping a lot, and I think KH is one of those series where you can really like just like lay into the lore dumping as a joke, because there's a lot of it to go through, especially with somebody like Roxas, who is the culmination of a lot of ideas, and a lot of shit happens to him that needs a lot of explanation. And this is like one of the most concise ways to do it without having the analysis be like 15 minutes long. Because we want to keep it rolling. We don't want to. I want to keep. I like to keep the episodes that aren't finales or premieres like around 30-ish minutes. And I'm really happy that this episode has been the shortest of the season so far, because it is compact. It is good. I don't think there's a single point of wasted space in the episode. I feel like the pacing is good. I feel like everything has a purpose for being here, and having that is like what I really want in a Versus episode. Because like I think my biggest, I like look back on like Giorno, and I feel like my biggest flaw with that is like I was adding excess where there didn't need to be any to try and get it to be a longer video, and I think that's a negative thing. I don't think adding fluff makes a video better. In fact, I think it makes it worse. Because if you saw a movie that had like 3 scenes that added 15 minutes on the screen time and they added nothing to the plot or the characters, you would be like, those scenes added nothing to the plot or characters. And like the goal of this show is like to present the characters and have them fight, and have the analysis be like sort of the hype up, but also sort of the explanation for the characterization. And you just need to have like a good pace for that. It's a difficult thing to do when you're writing and editing, especially when you like think about it. Like you have to do essentially 3 things at once. You have to hype up a character, you have to present their story, and you have to be funny while doing it. You have to make it not boring, and it's a really difficult thing to do. And you'll see like Dark Pit's analysis here is like it can be like it like very easily could get into like the nitty gritty of like what's going on in the war, what's happening, what is Pit doing when he's doing it. But that's the boring stuff. That's like the stuff that doesn't matter to Dark Pit, because Pit is not Dark Pit. So we just focus on like what Dark Pit does, what his story is, and how he fits in within the rest of the themes of the story, and like the culmination to his creation as well. That's important too. And like if you can't fit the criteria of like presenting the story, presenting the character, and being funny, I feel like you've like missed maybe a fundamental step. Like there's only so much that like you can do by just like presenting a story. I get bored very easily when I'm watching a video when the presenter isn't very charismatic, and I think you need to have like either a certain amount of charisma or you need to like become a character that has charismatic tendencies when you're voicing over. So it's like a thing of like I don't think I talk like I do when I voice over. I really don't. I'm more chill for sure. But I put on like a bit of a character just to like accentuate jokes and like to make story moments hit a little harder, that kind of stuff. And to me, that's what you need to do. Exaggeration helps a lot. You don't have to be like, whoa, we're in the space nebula now. I don't have to be like that. But there's like just a little bit always helps. So I didn't mean for this to become advice for your own versus show, but like I guess I did, because you know it's like a thing that like most people are dumb idiots, and sorry, no, I feel like most people like view analysis segments as like not contributing to the overall episode, and people just like want to review like the fight aspect of it, and the fight is important, but when you look at like the runtime of an episode of like let's say a death battle, the fight is like 3 to 4 minutes usually. The analysis usually runs like 11 to 12 minutes. I don't know, I haven't really watched an episode in a very long time. But the point is like the analysis is definitely like the meatier part of the entire episode. And like the fight matters, but the analysis is, if you're looking at it just through a pure percentage like viewpoint, it is the majority of what's going on in the video that you're creating. So it's important to make this stuff like not boring and finding ways to make it not boring. Like I added in the live action segments because I felt like it would be easier for me to, for one, talk about like stuff that I find a little more boring, like just going through characters' equipment and like what they can do with like the powers that they have and the powers they have. I felt like making it a little bit more personal by showing my face while doing it would add to like me, if I were to watch it, be like, oh, okay, I get it. Like it's a lot more simple. Not simple, I should say. It's a lot more intuitive to me. And again, that's just me. But anyway, to talk about the actual episode that's going on right now, instead of just like general philosophies I have while writing analysis parts. I think the biggest thing here is like shoutouts to Chugga Conroy. You'll notice like all of this is his footage, because I don't have control over this. He has the best Uprising footage on the internet, and I think a big thing for Dark Pit's analysis was I wanted to solely focus on Uprising, because people really don't understand Dark Pit as a character. I really don't think they do. They just view him as like Pit, but but Angie. And like either you didn't play all of Uprising, or you just play Smash Bros. And like there's a lot more to Dark Pit than that, and like the relationship he has with Pit especially is very fun, and I enjoy like his character growth throughout the entire fucking game. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, and like have that be the basis for his characterization in the episode is like, whereas most people, if they were to write a Dark Pit fight and they didn't play Uprising, they would just be like, we'll just make him edgy Pit. And I'm just like, that's not his character, really. He's just kind of like, he's more of a no-nonsense character than like an edgy character, really. Like, don't let the fact that, yeah, I forgot about this. This is the fucking bit that I'm like, everybody watching it is either caught off guard by it or like they expect it, and they're just like, that's funny, man. Now we're done with the analysis parts, which is crazy. Because like Dark Pit's analysis might be the shortest of the season so far. I didn't really want to get into a lot of shit with him, and also he's really only in one game that matters really to his story and his like general arsenal as a character. So I just wanted to keep it a little short, you know. If I were to do Pit, I would probably get in a little bit more detail about Uprising's general plot. But I'm not. I'm doing Dark Pit. Dark Pit's not there for the entire game. And part of what I'm talking about with Dark Pit's characterization, like, leads into me wanting to do this as an episode. Because those of you remember, I used to, like, I used to do scores. It's probably how most of you subscribe to this fucking channel. But, like, I used to do, like, scores that were, like, labeled as Death Battle fan scores. And, like, I stopped doing that partially because I wanted my own label and partially because I didn't want any copyright problems when I, like, uploaded the songs to streaming services. And, that was, like, it was a big thing of, like, there were, 6 original scores I did. It was Joker versus Giorno, then Gohan versus Superboy, Alucard versus Blade, Castlevania Alucard, what was the fourth one? Shulk versus Lightning, before I played Xenoblade. And the 5th one was Roxas versus Dark Pit. So I always had a soft spot in my heart, my Kingdom Heart, for this matchup, because I love Kingdom Hearts. It's probably my favorite video game series, just as a whole. You know, there's not every game is a winner, but like, I don't think a game series has impacted me the way that this game series has. And Roxas Dark Pit was like the first one that the first matchup that I made for a Kingdom Hearts character, and like, you know, like, eventually, like, I kind of get a little Kingdom Hearts heavy with my matchups sometimes, and I always like try to limit myself to like one franchise per season kind of deal. So like, I have to really make my Kingdom Hearts matchups count. And last season it was Minoff versus Lucio, which was also the Xenoblade matchup. Because like, Xenoblade's the other franchise where like I can make up like a million matchups for that franchise. It's just like one of those where like I have a matchup for like most, if not every character that I think is either neat or really good. So it was a thing of like, what's the general vibe of the season? The general vibe of the season is like kind of like not so much good guys, but definitely like, I'd say like more lighthearted. Because the first season there were a lot of villain fights, there was a lot of like more gory endings, there was a lot of more like kill/kill endings where like one character gets killed and the other character gets killed, and there was a lot of like gore and stuff like that. Whereas in this season, I don't think we're gonna get like a true gory thing, really. And the vibe of it was just like to have a little bit more fun instead of taking it a little bit more serious. Like, and this episode was always like one of the matchups that I wanted to do, to write a fight for, because I had never written a fight for this matchup, I don't think. There were other episodes this season that I have written before, like the next one. Back when I was writing Death Battle scripts, I wrote, spoilers, I wrote Zuko versus Roy Mustang, and I'm not super happy with how it came out, because I was pretty ignorant of Zuko's general characterization, and I want to kind of redeem that. And I don't think Zuko's been... Zuko? I don't think Zuko's been done, like, super well in versus. The Death Battle was like, it was like, eh. But, like, I'm excited to get to talk about Avatar for one, and then talk about Fullmetal Alchemist, because that's, like, another, like, just kind of perfect series. I feel like Avatar FMA matchups are, if they're not Aang versus Ed, they're, you know, good. They're really good. They can be extremely good. And Zuckerroy is probably my favorite one, and I wanted to do that and like have have that be like probably the most serious episode of the season, honestly, because those are like two pretty no nonsense characters, and I'm not gonna say what's gonna happen because I don't know because I haven't written it yet. Um, but I will say that there's a possibility for a bit of a no mercy ending there. Probably the biggest possibility of that happening in the season. Um, Partially because I don't want every episode to get samey, and like this episode. Oh yeah. I have to talk about this here. Another thing too was having jokes in the actual fight delivered by the characters, and I don't think I've really done that. I've had like characterization as the joke, but I never had characters tell a joke. And like I wanted to have that kind of uprising-ish tone to the fight as well. There was a whole first draft that I wrote where like Faridi was there talking to Pit, or sorry, Dark Pit, and they were like having a back and forth, and then Roxas is like, "Who the fuck are you talking to?" And I thought it'd be more funny if like Faridi was more like a Charlie Brown adult, like you couldn't hear her and you just like got like vague vague fragments of what she said to Dark Pit throughout the entire fight. I thought it'd be more humorous in like a cartoony kind of way. And also if it's with like the diegesis because Roxas can't hear her, and I like want this to be from like a second person point of view, so like it's not from the point of view of the characters, but it's also not from like a full third person point of view. It's more so like you're from the point of view of like the narrator, and the narrator is like narrating what you're seeing because like you're essentially the camera, and the camera's like following around the characters and like seeing them talk to each other, and like they can hear like you can like make out the inner thoughts a little bit, but maybe not so much the conversations they're having with other characters in their heads. Um, I'll do this before I read to. I had to shout out the voice actors for this. Roxas was done by Cameram, who's is Versus Universe main character debut, as he likes to call it. He said, "Mom, get the camera. I'm a main character." He did a couple cameo voices, not so much cameo, just bit pieces, bit parts. He did, I think, I forget the name. The guy who's not John DiMaggio in Mad World in Travis Jack, that like announcer guy, the Greg Proops character that I forget the name of. He said the line as V in Virgil versus Hiei. He was Ryuji in Joker versus Giorno, and the Jack Frost. He did the he. Oh no. And I don't think he's done a voice since then. No, he was a couple of aliens in Ben versus Jaime. I think he was feedback. Feedback and one other guy that I'm blanking on. I remember feedback. I can't remember the other guy. Ooh, baby. Ooh, I'm working on my mind palace to try to remember this. It might come to me. Gray Matter. It was Gray Matter. he specializes in completely like forcing little guys who are about to fucking die. So, but like I wanted somebody who had like kind of like Jesse McCartney quality to their voice, and like out of all like the people I know who are like voice actors in the circle I have, his voice fit Roxas the best for my money. And also had to shout out Carbonated Gem. He did the art here. Perfect, amazing, no notes. Perfectly like encapsulates what I wanted the climax of this to feel like. And I might not get art for like solely the climaxes, but I did want that specific art to happen. And I'm about to talk about Dark Pit and Roxas' ending. So, so Dark Pit was voiced by Eve, who also did a great job. And this is like the first time, actually, since I don't have a lot of time left, I'm going to talk about this now. This is the first time I tried directing them like directly. So I was on a call with both of them in a DM group, and we like went through the entire script and we read out through all the lines, and I gave him direction on everything. Basically, I was like, try it again, maybe a bit more standoffish or stuff like that. And like, it was my first time voice directing, and I was it was a neat experience to like actively direct the voice, because I definitely have a thing in like my mind of like what I want the voices to be like. That might not always like be what they interpret the line as, and sometimes their interpretation is fun. Sometimes it's better than what I think of, and that's like, I'll fully acknowledge that. But sometimes I do just want it to be like what I think is best for like the emotion in the maybe like the joking nature of it, maybe like reading it a little bit faster just to like compress it to make it a little bit more comedic, just like stuff like that. And like sometimes, it's better. Sometimes though, I just want it to be like the way that I want it, and like it's like a beautiful thing, because you never truly know like what you're gonna get when you get somebody reading off like the script that you've written, I should say. And it's like, once you get the lines and you're like, oh yeah, it's all coming together. um, and it's always fun to get that, and like being there for that also is like a huge treat. Um, yeah, I think that's like close to everything I want to really talk about with this specific episode. Um, oh yeah, and like another reason that I scrapped the original script where like Verity was talking to him, was talking to Dark Pit, was because it was too comedic for my liking. The whole point of this is to kind of compare and contrast. Like, Roxas is not a funny character. He's really not. He doesn't really have comedic moments. At least not usually. There's like Roxas, that's his stick. There's like comedic moments like that, and just like he has unyielding optimism, kind of like Sora, and like he makes that contrast in like he makes that comparison in the actual like fight. He like talks specifically about that. Whereas Dark Pit is a lot more nonchalant. He likes to joke around a little bit, especially when he's on top. He's a lot more like the Vegeta type character, and like I it was a thing of like, I don't want him to come off too jokey though. I don't want him to not be taken this seriously. And like the compromise is like, whenever he's on top, he's either joking or he's cocky, or like he's like talking and he just says a joke in the conversation, because that's like the way that Uprising works. Is like, there's a reason this episode is like so like, I wouldn't even call it dialogue heavy. I'd say Ben Jaime is more dialogue heavy. There's definitely more dialogue in that episode, but there's definitely a lot of it in this episode, because Uprising as a game is so, you know like uh, dialogue heavy, and I wanted to have that be represented in a way that wasn't like just like having him talk constantly. Like, it's a lot more of back and forth, like set up punchline, set up punchline, set up punchline, and just like have that be like the kind of dynamic that a lot of their conversations have. If not, like the conversation is like, Dark Pit says something he probably shouldn't have, and then Roxas takes it a little bit more seriously than Dark Pit really intends, and then like the cool fight stuff happens. And yeah, that was like the whole goal of it, was just really to make it a little bit more fun, really, than maybe people might have expected. Um, and I'm excited to get to write a fight that's a little bit more serious next time. Um, it's gonna be a challenge for sure. I'll probably need to walk through some scenes, maybe some some video essays, if I can find any. About Roy, I mean, not Zuko. I'm having trouble finding video essays about Zuko. Fucking trying to find water in the fucking Pacific Ocean. Jesus Christ. No. I'm excited for next time, definitely. I'm excited this episode came out pretty much exactly the way I wanted it. And I hope you all will join me for this fun, not so fun maybe, episode where two angry boys meet each other and they go fire, and then Zuko's like fire, and then Roy's like fire, then Fox goes and he goes fire. That's right, Fox McCloud from Smash Bracket is making his way into Versus Universe. That's not true. I shouldn't lie to you right before the video's gonna end. I gotta go take a shit. Bye.